Sound off.
Rated T14.
Does young people even need a voice in this community? What can the community expect from this show?
I am my brother's keeper. We got to be responsible for each other.
It's okay to be different. Building stronger communities by helping the rest of our community really make it and achieve their dreams.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's go!
Good morning, Horry and Georgetown counties, and welcome to Sound Off. Now, Sound Off is heard weekly on your favorite radio station, and we are sponsored by Carolina Teen Health. And as always, I have some of the most wonderful, I would have to say good-looking, smart, and all of the above, young people as team member on Sound Off. And at this time, young people, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Hi, this is Ray Groover from Early College High School.
And I'm Johnny Ray from Conway High School.
Good morning, guys. It's Tanisha Jones, HGTC.
Good morning. It's your girl, Sierra Gathers from Conway High.
It's Brianna Bellamy from Early College High School.
And we are very honored to have as our very special guest on this morning, we have Ms. Sherry Coutain of Family Outreach of Horry County. We'll give it up for Ms. Coutain.
Glad to be here.
And also Mr. Jarrett, Mr. Sheldon Jarrett of The Father's Place. Guys, give it up for Mr. Jarrett.
Glad to be here.
So, of course, the topic continues, and we will continue the conversation on teen pregnancy. Now, Ms. Coutain and Mr. Jarrett, I do understand that the pregnancy rate is down in Horry County. However, we are well aware that we still have a problem here in the county, so we wanted to continue the conversation. Now, I want to bring you in first, Mr. Jarrett. You know, a lot of times, as when we talk about teen pregnancy prevention, it's almost like parents feel that it's kind of double standards. So what I want to ask you first is, why is it important to include males in the conversation as it relates to teen pregnancy prevention?
Well, quite interestingly, I would say that the most important reason to include males in the conversation of teen pregnancy would be, for the first part, that men have to contributors to the situation. There is no teen pregnancy without them, and therefore, to offer good information to the males, have males come through, get involved with offering information. It creates that balanced dialogue and exchange of information from both perspectives in regards to teen pregnancy prevention.
Okay.
Oh, I'll have a question about that. How do you think male-to-male mentoring can help young men with relationship-like decisions?
I think that's really good, Brianna.
Well, I would say, men, we've been through things. When you have a man who's been through relationships, who may have experienced, I say that, men, we sort of experience this whole situation of relationship, sort of similar to females. We may handle different emotions a little different. So when you have men who experience things and go through the whole relationship situation, that's experience that could be shared, knowledge that could be shared and conveyed, so that, the one brothers that's coming up, they can actually learn from, past errors, past mistakes, sort of prevent them from going through some of the same things that we went through that were negative, and sort of encourage them to go through some of the same thing or experience some of the same things that we may have experienced that were more positive in relations to, relationships.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Jarrett. What do you think has been the pitfall as it relates to the mentorship part? Do you feel as though, I know you're only one person, but if you had to answer this from a true sense, do we get enough positive male mentorship in terms of letting the males know, just like we talk about abstinence with our young ladies? Is that a message that the males is that the conversation that males have as well?
Well, I would say that it should be. I would say that, realistically speaking, when you're talking about abstinence, when you're talking about teenage pregnancy prevention, this is a conversation that, amongst men, it may not be as, what's the word I'm looking for? It may not be as stressed, to the young male as it may be from a male to a female, or from a mother to a female. So I would say, again, it's about information, it's about responsibility. For those who have experience, for those who have the knowledge, again, you want to share that in regards to developing a responsibility in the young men, so that, again, they know, the do's and the don'ts. They know, they're preparing themselves, they're focused, they have their eye, set on their goals and when it's time, then again, it happens in its season. The relationships happen in its season, and, you know, becoming a parent or becoming a father happens in its right season. Because again, anytime you have anything that's, you know, out of season, then you're looking at problems, you're looking at, you know, issues that, you know, of course, can spiral out of control.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so this question is directed toward Ms. Kutane. It says here that on average, 21 teens ages 15 to 19 give birth in South Carolina every day. How has that statistic varied in the past years?
It actually has lowered in the past few years, and that's a good thing. And but the thing that sometimes we're not aware of, that's a 2009 statistic. So we're usually, the data that comes through is usually about 2 years behind our current date. So we won't know for another few years what the data will show for 2011. But a good question.
Now, Ms. Kutane, I would like to know, what are the consequences for teens giving birth?
Well, I'll tell you what, I've worked with teen parents for over 19 years now. I work with family outreach in a program called Parent Friends. So I've actually seen firsthand some of the consequences of that behavior. And first and foremost, we see that teens that have babies at an early age, they're less likely to complete their education, and that's thrusting them into poverty if they're not going to go on to higher learning. Also, we see that they're less likely to be married, so they're going to have to live that life in single parenthood. It's not just the children that have a problem, but you know, their children, not just the youth or the teen parent, but their child as well will have some consequences that they have to deal with. And some of that would be maybe poor health. They may have a lower cognitive development. They may not do as well or be as prepared for school. They have a lot of other psychological and social issues that they have to deal with. They're less likely to succeed than, say, someone that's born to a two-family parenthood home of a married couple.
Well, let me ask you, Ms. Kutane, I know that's definitely hold true for a lot of the young people that might not necessarily have the support, you know, like the grandmother or somebody that really takes control in terms of making sure that that baby has what the baby needs. Now, would you say that maybe statistically the baby comes out better when it's not just maybe that teen mom and maybe the teen dad that's involved in the rearing process?
Well, we know that when there's a situation where there's support and intervention, the teen parent can do quite well and the child can overcome these obstacles. So it's not written in stone that they're going to fail because they become a teen parent, but we know that there's a need for intervention. There's going to be a need for support, and there's going to be extra measure that's going to have to take place in order for that young parent to be successful and for her child or his child to be successful.
That's a good point. Raekwon, did you want to ask Mr. Jarrett something?
All right, well, Mr. Jarrett, I would like to know what your stance is on what young males should learn about teen pregnancy, because we all know there's like a double standard, and some people think that males aren't taught to, you know, be careful about it. So I would like to know your standpoint on it.
Good question. What I would say, man, is first and foremost, responsibility. We're looking at, you know, self-responsibility, or respect for yourself as a young man, you know, to understand, again, you know, to become a parent, you're actually going to bring a life into the world. So, I mean, there's some things that has to be in place, you know, there's some things that has to be, you know, in order. And so before, you know, sort of rushing out or not making sure that everything is in its proper perspective, in its proper order, you know, just you know, pace yourself. We want to get the message across to the young men to, you know, really be focused on who you are as a person, as an individual, understand your learning process stage, you know, your developmental stage before, you know, going further or, you know, again, dealing with things that are, you know, pretty much out of season. Then respect for the woman. You know, if we can institute that ideal of, you know, self-respect, you know, for the man, and then self-respect or respect of the woman, and understand, you know, the process of birth, and understand, you know, what these things, you know, deal with, the principles of it, then I think that, you know, it'll be more thought given, you know, before, you know, acting without thinking. I think there'll be, you know, more thought, you know, given to the process and given to the actions. And so, I mean, that's what we want. We want responsibility. We want self-respect. We want the message to be, you know, basically accountability, just understanding a thorough, you know, grounded understanding of self.
Okay, I'm going to you guys. Let me ask you, Tanisha. Mr. Jarrett made a really good point, but do you think, how old are you?
I'm 20.
Okay, 20-year-old, and Johnny Ray, how old are you?
18.
18. How old are you?
16.
16.
17.
17, and Sierra, you're?
14.
Okay, people in your age group. He talked about the consequences and thinking about things before you act. Do you think, if I would ask you, do your friends think about consequences as it relates to teen pregnancy prevention?
I don't really think they too much. I don't really think they too much go off of what's going to happen. They just think in the moment. It's
Okay.
more of a spur of the moment kind of thing. They don't really plan that much ahead. And I can speak for myself. Like, most of my decisions are haste decisions. They're quick decisions, the easiest ones to make at the moment. But I'm starting to learn that it takes time and effort and thinking and a process to make a better decision, to have a better outcome.
Okay, good point. What about you, Tanisha?
I agree with what Rickon said. Most people my age, they are like spare of the moment.
Okay.
They don't think at all. But it comes to the time that you need to think, okay, if I do this, what's the outcome?
Right.
Because if you don't and you get this surprise, you're going to be like, oh, what do I do? So you need to think about it.
Okay. Johnny Ray?
Well, like you said, as we've gotten older, I think they've started being a little bit more thought conscientious, but I don't think they think all their actions through. You know, they do something, and then afterwards they think, oh, well, this is the repercussion.
Right.
It's just like any young person will do, and, you know, it's always like your parents say, you know, you'll learn from that mistake one day, or you'll learn from your decisions one day, or the actions that you've taken. So.
Okay. Brianna?
I agree with Johnny Ray about how people really don't think about their decisions when they do it, and that they just think, oh, spare the moment. And then when it's time, the consequences come, they're like, oh, I didn't know this was going to happen. Well, if you do this, the outcome's going to be that.
Okay, good point. Sierra?
I agree with all of them, but most people, whenever they do something, they don't think about what they do. They just do it, and then whenever they get to the consequence, they be like,
Yeah, that's a good point. No, you're making a good point.
Okay, my question falls on the marriage. Ms. Coutain, what's the percentage of teen parents getting married or them getting married to the person they had a child with when they were teenagers?
Well, that's good.
Okay. Well, just from my experience in working with the teen mothers, only 10% will actually go on to marry the father of their babies. So, you know, we know that relationships that start early in life usually are not going to go on to be long-lasting, committed relationships because, you know, priorities change, people's preferences change,
Right,
and,
right.
you know, they grow apart. They really don't even have a lot of things in common anymore. So, you know, if they're involved, say, at 14, 15 years old, that guy is not anybody they would even consider being with by the time they're 25 years old and ready and looking for a mate. So, you know, it's a small percentage.
But you know what, Ms. Coutain, the crazy thing is you can't tell a 14-year-old that now because they just really think this is going to be my husband.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. So much comes into play.
Yeah. When you think about, when you think about, you know, when you talk about childhood sweethearts, everybody gets excited about that because it's so what? Rare.
Right, exactly.
You don't
That's
hear
right.
about cases where people were together in high school or definitely not middle school and then they go on to marry. So, you know, it's one of those rare occasions that everybody get excited about because it doesn't happen that often.
That's right.
You know, you just don't have those situations often.
And Ms. Coutain, you made a great point. I like to look at it also, again, with the double standard in just how we talk to the youth in general, male and female, because again, it points back to the developmental stages. You know, I'm
Right.
listening to everyone talk, and you know, the first thing came to mind was like the criminal justice system. They actually divided it into a criminal justice and then a juvenile justice because of the developmental stages of juveniles. They do not treat them the same. They do not make the same decisions with the same calculative information
Right.
as an adult.
The conversation will continue. You're listening to Sound Off, heard weekly on your favorite radio station, and we'll be right back. Sound Off. We invite you to join this conversation. All you have to do is simply log on to www.wesoundoff.com and you can be a part of this discussion. Sound Off.
Rated T14.